Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World Pulse podcast. I'm your host, Sheena Katz, and I'm really glad that you're here today. World Pulse is a social impact network supporting grassroots women leaders advancing gender equity worldwide. And this podcast is here to explore how change actually happens in the world, not only through policies or institutions, but through connection, through listening, and through the bridges that we build between people, communities, and possibility. At World Pulse, we often talk about creating a digital bridge to change, a bridge that connects women across borders, cultures, and lived experiences, a bridge that turns stories into shared understanding and understanding into collective action. Because meaningful change does not happen in isolation. It happens when women are able to find one another across geography, sector, and circumstance and move forward together. In this podcast series, we're especially interested in how women navigate complexity, how they build trust, how they make decisions in moments of uncertainty, and how connection, particularly in a digital world, becomes a catalyst for real, lasting change. Each episode is an invitation, not just to listen, but to cross a bridge, to reflect, to engage, and to see yourself as part of a global community working towards a more just and equitable future. And today's guest is Keturah Shammah, also known as the Girl Evangelist. Keturah is the founder and executive director of Girls Education Mission International, a digital strategist, social impact consultant, and advocate for girls' education and technology access in Nigeria. Through workshops, mentorship, and initiatives like Digital Balance for Better, she is equipping girls not just with skills, but with systems, confidence, and leadership pathways. Keturah, it's such a joy to have you on here today. Welcome to the World Pulse podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Sheena.
Well, we are thrilled to have you on here. Let's get started. So, you've described yourself as a girl evangelist, advocate, and digital nomad. But before all of that, you were a girl navigating limited access in rural Nigeria. Can you take us back to your own turning points? When did you realize that technology could become a bridge rather than a barrier?
Thank you very much, Sheena, for the question. So, just as you said, I grew up in a rural community in Nigeria. And then, growing up as a young girl, I had a biggest limitation. And that limitation was not because I wasn't having ambition, and it was because I wasn't having access. So my limitation was actually access to information, access to mentors, and access to opportunities. And then I remember as a young girl almost dropping out of school, I felt the world was moving, leaving me behind. So I saw myself stand still while the world was moving. So, and that gave birth to me starting Girls Education Mission International. And when I started, I had no money. I don't have status. I don't have even influence. So, but all I have was my lived experience and that burning passion to change the circumstances of girls in my community. I wasn't having even digital skills then, growing up in a village. Actually, I had never even seen computer then. And so that was actually my background. And because of that, I was looked down upon. And especially when I started Girls Education Mission International, as a young girl, people doubted this young girl, being a female, not just my age, but my gender as a female. Can anything good actually comes from me? And so because of that, I needed somebody to really believe in me. And I needed network and connections that will help me actually grow my passion. And so when I encountered technology, I encountered it in a meaningful way anyway, and something just shifted within me. And I realized that technology was not just for browsing or entertainment, but was a bridge. And I saw it as a bridge between my local community to the global world. I also saw it as a bridge between my silence and my voice. And, just as I said, I was limited. I saw technology as a bridge between my limitation and my leadership. So during that time, using a borrowed laptop, which I only access in the night, and I will search online, looking at the platforms that can help me connect with people that would believe in me. And that was when I searched and found WordPress. And so I signed up on WordPress, and that was the first transformation of my digital journey. And from then, I discovered that, yes, technology is here to dismantle my barriers. So that was actually my background.
There's something so powerful about reframing access as opportunity. And you've often said that entrepreneurship isn't what you do, it's how you live. What does that mindset look like in practice when your mission is girls' empowerment?
Okay, so for us here in a context, when you mention entrepreneurship, what comes to mind is profit. And that profit most at times is money. So for me, I look at entrepreneurship as not actually a business, but as a responsibility. And I've seen myself with a responsibility to change the world. So as a social entrepreneur, my profit is not money, but my profit is transformation. So I see my profit as a social entrepreneur when I see girls who stay in school through my work. And I see where system change through my own advocacy. And also when the confidence of girls grow through my work, that makes me to feel I am actually into entrepreneurship, because these are my reward, these are my profit, not money. So I don't sit down as a social entrepreneur starting with no money, no influence. I don't sit down around complaining about problems. I always try to ask questions, what could I build to solve the problems? And so I rather create solutions, especially solutions that bring girls in school. And I don't always also wait for perfect funding. As an organization, we run the organization without big money, but we have big impact. So instead of that, I always use what I have instead of waiting for big money. And I also build programs, not for praise, that is not for applause, but I build them for sustainability. So all the programs I do, myself and my team, we ensure it's a sustainable programs. It's not just, we are not doing that to be praised, because we are doing, people will be attracted and say, well done, but we ensure sustainability. And so for me, entrepreneurship, that is why I said it's my lifestyle of ownership, owning my mission to educate and empower girls, owning the risks that comes with that mission, and also owning the outcomes of my work. So that is how I see entrepreneurship, not a business, but a leadership and responsibility for me to change the world.
And digging in a little bit deeper with your mission and your vision, what inspired you to first launch Girls Education Mission International? And what gap were you determined to close there?
Wow, it's actually a story that I always want to share. Girls Education Mission International was founded out of my lived personal experience. So I was that girl who always didn't make it. Just as I've said, I almost dropped out of school. And so not that I saw brilliant girls dropping out of school. In fact, in my class, we ended up graduating only the 3 of us as girls. But we started almost over 30 girls. But before graduation, we were only 3. And so because of that, I developed that passion. And most of these girls, they drop out from school, not because they lack the intelligence, but because of poverty. Some of them, like my own situation, I wasn't able to pay my fees because of financial constraints. So because of poverty and also expectation by the community, and some don't have mentors that will guide them, you see them dropping out of school. And so I always consider myself as someone as someone that grace has found. Because for me, I only escaped dropout because of grace. And I realized something, that grace alone is not a strategy, because not every girl will be able to overcome the barriers I have overcome by grace. And so the gap I wanted to close was to just ensure girls get enrolled, not just enroll, they stay in school, they have access to quality education, and they are well prepared for the future. And so Girls Education Mission International was created to really strengthen the system that keeps girls in class. And we do that by providing scholarship, we provide mentorship, we provide empowerment, like economic empowerment programs through digital skill trainings, and also community accountability. We all work in these areas in order to really fill in the gap.
And with your work, you're not just teaching digital skills, you're building systems through workshops, virtual sessions, and mentorship. Why was it important to create a replicable model rather than a one off intervention?
Okay, so let me clearly say that, creating an event creates moments, world system creates movements. I hope you got that. Let me say it again. Event creates a moment, world system creates movements. And so at first, we will have decided to just do workshop, but I knew that that wasn't enough. Girls need consistent mentorship, not just one-off events, and that is all. So we also discovered that schools need accountability and the communities need to be involved. And that is why we ensure schools, communities, and also the families are brought together to be accountable for girls. So all our effort is to try to build something that is replicable and also collaborative of all the key actors. And so because of that, we ensure sustainability of our programs by advocacy and accountability by all the key actors, so that after the one-time event, it will be sustainable.
And I want to talk a little bit more about advocacy and accountability because I know that your work exists within a very real and sometimes fragile context, right? So last November, Nigeria experienced one of the worst mass school abductions in recent years, with more than 300 students taken from a school in one of the Nigerian states. As someone leading a girls' education movement in the country, how did that moment impact you? And what role did you feel called to play in its aftermath?
That experience was really, really heartbreaking. But the experience you cited actually wasn't the first. There has been series of attacks, kidnapping, and adoption of school girls. And before that of the Niger, there was even that of KB 2 weeks, weeks before that of Niger. But the painful question was, why education? And why girls? Every time a school is attacked, fears enters the communities. And when that fear enters the communities, girls are the first to be withdrawn by their parents. So for me, that experience was really, really personal. Because I felt the years of building trust with parents was suddenly shaking. We find it very difficult to convince parents again to send their daughters to school because of fear. And even to advocate was very, very difficult, because as advocates, we felt unsafe. Because we are championing girls' education, we become the target of even those that are against it. But in that moment, I still felt called not to retreat, not to allow fear to stop me. but to speak, however, to speak responsibly. And so what we did, what we are doing now, is to advocate for stronger systems and to encourage the communities not to let fear permanently silence girls' education, especially for parents. They shouldn't make that situation to make them feel afraid of taking their daughter to school. And that is why we work with the government to ensure safety. And so when the parent felt, yes, there are safety measures, they become encouraged. So because we feel actually education transforms societies, and maybe that transformation is exactly why education is being targeted, especially to those that are opposing the transformation. And but crisis must not reverse the progress we have built. Yes. And that is why we will not allow the progress we have built for years to just go by. We advocate for stronger systems to ensure security and safety of girls in school so that families and communities will feel comfortable to send their daughters to school.
So, in moments of crisis like that school abduction, how can digital platforms be used responsibly to mobilize awareness, coordinate support, and protect communities without amplifying panic or misinformation?
Yes, digital platforms are actually powerful. When you use it possibly or negatively, they are actually powerful. And so, but it requires discipline. And that is why in a moment of crisis, most especially like during the adoption of the children, one must verify the information before sharing. We must amplify credible sources, not just fake news. And when situations happen like that, when we carry fake news all around, it creates fear because of the fake news that has been spread on. And also, we must also protect the dignities of the victims. Most of the times you see pictures, photos of the victims sharing all around, and the victims feel uncomfortable and unsafe. They also feel unprotected. And it also contributes to discouraging parents to really sending their daughters because they feel, after all, if it happens this way, I will be exposed. And also, we need to avoid panic-driven content. When it happens, it was just like the whole Nigeria. It happened actually in a particular region, but because of how it was amplified, it was just like the whole Nigeria. The whole girls in the country were captured. And so every region were panicked. And I remember then, not just in Niger or in Kebbi State, almost all the schools in northern Nigeria were shut down. Even those states that were not affected were shut down because everywhere there was panic. And so digital advocacy should mobilize support and accountability, not trauma. And responsible leadership matters when emotions are high. That time the emotions were high because of fear and the way the news were carried out, and that was why almost all schools were shut down, even those areas that were not affected, because of the spread of the fear and the panic. So we must use technology responsibly by verifying the sources of information and ensure the information we shared are not panic-driven.
And now, your Digital Balance for Better initiative addresses both digital opportunity and digital responsibility. Why is it critical to teach online safety alongside ambition?
Okay, opportunity without safety is very, very dangerous. And many girls or many young women are online, but they are navigating it blindly. Go to social media, you see many of girls, like for us, we see some of these girls that we work with mostly hours, taking most hours online. But they don't understand the privacy, what privacy means. They don't understand what digital footprint means or their boundaries. And so they use online space as anyhow as they wish. So when I took interest in digital space, I had a goal myself personally. Just as I've told you, my goal was to grow my network. My goal was to grow my voice and also to grow my impact. That was my goal. And because I had a goal, I focused on my goal. So I wasn't driven by anything. And so through Digital Balance for Better, we teach girls ambition and also responsibility, how they can use technology and how to protect themselves while doing so. You know, the challenge we have is not just about limited access to the devices, but they need to also understand how to use those devices, the skill they need, and also how they can protect themselves. Because it's because of the safety that you see most parents are discouraging even their children to go online. They feel unsafe. So that is why we combine both ambition and safety, so that the women we work with, they will be comfortably.
And in underserved communities, technology can be transformative, but it can also widen gaps. What determines whether tech becomes a bridge to opportunity or another layer of exclusion?
Okay, you know, technology automatically for me is empowering. All my empowerment process, I give kudos to technology. All my voice, my network, my impact was grown through the use of technology. And so it becomes a bridge when access is affordable, you know, and also skills are taught intentionally. And there is also a mentorship. Just as I've mentioned initially, we have those that, yes, they are curious to be online, but their challenge is they don't have access to the digital tools and resources. So it's not enough. Let's say they have access, they don't have access. Some only wish they have laptop or smartphones. But having smartphones and laptop is not enough. Some may have the laptop, they might have smartphone, but they don't know what to do with it. Or they don't have access to internet connectivity to connect and really leverage the internet. Some have the laptop, they have smartphone, they have access to the internet, but they don't have skills to navigate the internet. Yes, we also have categories of women that have the laptop or smartphone. They also have connectivity. They have the skills, but they don't know what they want online. So in all this, it's not just about having the laptop, it's about knowing what to do with it. It's not all about having all the resources, the digital tools and resources. It's all about knowing what to do with all these things. So devices don't just transform communities, but the ecosystems do. And the ecosystem has to do with all these things. Both the devices, the knowledge, the skill, the goal, and knowing what to do.
And in your own line of work, what makes a digital bridge strong enough to carry real world transformation?
Okay, so you know, I can't speak about my digital experience without linking it to WordPress. Just as I've said, when I first searched online for a place to grow my voice, WordPress was the first platform that appeared for me. And through WordPress, I really built my connection. It was through WordPress I first have my first global friends that I got connected, and I also gained my own visibility. I was trusted to facilitate technology workshop for women in Nigeria by WordPress, and that was the first transformation of my life. I just joined WordPress. Yeah, joining WordPress, I have people across, women across the world that encouraged me, and WordPress trusted me and gave me all the resources to train women in Nigeria. But here is what I've learned. A digital bridge is only strong when it carries trust, shared purpose, and consistency. You know, you have to really build trust online. WordPress trusted me, and also saw the purpose I shared. We have a shared mission and a shared goal, which is one, to empower women. And also they saw my consistency, and because of that, they really helped my journey of digital transformation. So digital connection must also translate offline into mentorship, into funding and collaboration, and also policy conversations. And that is why it's not just about being online. We still connect with the women and young women physically, like the whole post training we hold in our office, and also through digital platforms. We source for funding, we establish collaborations, and we also advocate for policies at the global level. Even while we are local, we still connect globally. So a bridge must lead somewhere. Very, very real.
And I want to dig in a little bit more in how you're leveraging the global ecosystem because you are a digital strategist and global advocate. So, being both, how have international platforms and digital communities strengthened your local impacts in Nigeria?
Okay. So being part of a global ecosystem like WordPress and engaging on stages, just like we are connected with the United Nations, which is a global platform, and it has actually strengthened my credibility and expanded my vision for women and girls. Just as I've said, through WordPress was the first platform to have my voice being heard at the global level beyond Nigeria. Before WordPress, I've been local. But when I joined WordPress, I had global visibility. Then I felt, yes, I can have people from across the world that they see my work, they commend my work, and also extend a hand of collaborations. And so that also, through digital access, we are able to be certified or granted a special consultative status by the United Nations. So my organization has a special consultative status by the United Nations. And that one, it was just online. I searched and I apply it myself, even though it was actually a long time, but it was actually through online. I got that. When we got certified, we became engaged. And those platforms, like I remember last year, that was 2025, our organization was recognized by UN Women as the best organization with the best practices ending gender-based violence and also using the young voice of young women. And they invited us at New York during the CSW 69. We made a presentation we are the only African countries, organization from African countries that was recognized. So that was actually an opportunity for us we have used that global platform to speak on behalf of girls in Nigeria. So the global ecosystem amplify grassroots voices. Imagine, just as I've said, me from a rural community, finding myself at the United Nations stage through technology. So bringing the voices of the grassroots, because I always call myself a grassroots woman. So a grassroots woman, from grassroots to the global platform. And so, but I always say the impact must return home. And that is why, despite the advocacy we do at the global level, the impact is really, really home. And the international exposure has strengthened our local system. We had several recognitions. Like me personally, I have over 30 awards, recognitions of what we do. Let me just give an example of one of our organization too. We just received a recognition by Meta, that is Facebook, all the way from their office. They sent us an award. They shipped to Nigeria. And all because I want to believe they've seen the work we do beyond Nigeria. And they recognize. So we leverage all these global ecosystem platforms to really amplify the voices of women and girls. And that gives us more credibility and acceptability.
That's an incredible story from the rural areas of Nigeria to the United Nations.
Yeah.
And now I know that your work intersects education, entrepreneurship, technology, and advocacy. What have you learned about the power of cross sector collaboration in scaling impact for girls?
Okay. So, girls' empowerment cannot sit just in one corner. And just as we said, our name is Girls Education Mission International. When I'm asked to speak about who we are, I always say our name explains who we are. Girls Education Mission and International. So we are just on a mission to educate girls globally, internationally, not just in Nigeria. Actually, of course, just as I've told you, our advocacy has reached the shore of has passed the shore of Nigeria. So, but education and empowerment is holistic. Education leaders, tech companies, policy makers, and community leaders must come together. And that is where I mention of accountability. And when everyone aligns around shared outcomes, scales become possible. So we work as a civil society organization. We work with the communities. We work with the government. And we also work with key actors in technology sector. And everybody brings his or her own expertise. And so collaboration works when it's about responsibility, not competition. And when everybody plays his own part, everything works. We have the government who are in the position to influence the policies that we advocate for. Then we bring the community leaders who knows the communities where we work for. And we bring the parents and the girls who lives with the problem. And we also bring other key actors like technology companies, the media agencies. These are people that have resources and expertise to really help advance our mission. So, bringing all this together make the equation balance, and everyone becomes accountable, and the empowerment becomes holistic. Because when it comes to policy, we have those that are responsible to influence the policy, which are the government. When it comes to those who knows the community where the problem lies, we have them. And those that knows the problem, those that live with the problem, and those that have expertise, skills, and resources to give. So collaboration is the secret for holistic empowerment of girls. That is why we work across all the sectors, not just single sector.
Absolutely. And speaking of collaboration, you're building sustainable pathways for girls' access, education, and technology. What kind of partnerships, whether it's corporate, nonprofits, or governments, are essential to scale this vision long term?
Okay. So, for us as an organization, we will be 15 years this year. That is with legal registration with the federal government of Nigeria. And for the past 15 years have been years, we call it a years of survival and impact. So, and as an organization, as we mark our 15 years, we are thinking about the next 15 years of sustainability, since it has been of survival. But for the years of survival, we have organizations that we have worked with as our funders and as our program partners. So we need government alignments. We need government alignment for us to scale our vision sustainably. We need government alignment. We also need corporate partnership and non-profit collaborations outside the country. So we actually have, currently we have a funder that funds our education projects. but we need more funders outside the country to support us, most especially that the work is enormous. As I've said, during that abduction of girls, as you know, then I was so busy because calls everywhere for us to intervene and the resources are not there. So we actually need more investment from philanthropic individuals and also foundations, both local and international. And so we have actually built structures over the 15 years. And now it's just for us to sustain those structures and also scale them with strategic partnership and funding. So we need funding organizations.
And now I also want to speak about some girls and women who may see themselves in your story. So, for the girls listening who may not yet have access, resources, or confidence, what would you say to the girl who's curious about technology but not sure where to begin?
Okay, just as I've shared from my own story, you must first have a goal in life, have a purpose. And that is why, as an organization, mentorship is one of the key components of our programs. And so, to the girls that are listening to me, and first, I always say, I always tell the girls we work with, don't just think big, but think bold. Think boldly. And, because of what the world has made us to believe, that technology, to some extent, it seems to be a male space. So those girls that have interest in technology, as I always say, my life is transformed by the use of technology resources. And so I'm actually a living testimony. And why? Because I was having a goal. I was having an ambition. My thought was big and bold to really grow my voice, my network, and influence. So I joined the digital space with a goal. And that is what I want to advise every girl that is listening and is also interested in joining the digital space. So you need to also believe in yourself. That is why when you see most of the girls, just as I've said, you see them online, but because they don't have a goal, they don't have what they want, they just join the digital space aimlessly. And at the end of the day, there is no return of impact of the digital space in their lives. And that makes the community discourages women being online because there is no profit, there is no benefit. But when when a woman joins with a goal and this community sees the impact, it will be encouraging by the community to also advocate for women being online. So to every woman, to every young woman that is interested in digital space, think bold and think big. Have a goal and start anyway how it is. And you also need to join communities like me. I have WordPress as my community. I have actually other platforms that really helps me. And think of maybe doing 1 or 2 projects like me because I already have a goal. And also ask questions. Ask questions when you don't know. Confidence grows through actions. And technology is that tool that anyone can learn and use it. I've learned designing website on my own by trial and error using technology, and now I am a web developer. I design website that runs for years and also help others to have their own website for years. And because I was having a goal. So have a goal of what you want to achieve on a digital space. And that goal must be big and bold and must have a return of impact that the community can see and say, yes, it works being online. And so we can advocate for more women to be on digital space.
And now, for the other side, for the women listening, perhaps who feel called to social advocacy work or social impact work, but they don't know where to start, what advice would you give them about taking the first step and building something meaningful like you have?
Okay, to the woman, a single woman or women who are listening to me, who feels calls but unsure, because actually I have even a lot of them that will reach out to me. Keturah, what you are doing, I also have a similar vision and I don't know how to start. I am not sure if I am really called to start. And so I always, there is one thing that I always say: you must have a passion of what to do. And you don't begin something just because other people are doing it. For me, I didn't start Girls Education Mission International because I have seen other women doing what they are doing and I'm admired by what they do. Probably my experience might be a little bit different. I started with the lived experience, my own personal experience. And I think that is what keeps me going. That even when there are no resources, just as I've said, I don't wait for the big resources. Program still goes. The passion moves me. And I don't also complain of the situations. I try to find solutions. Why? Because I'm already out for it. I'm not out for it because I've seen others are doing. So it's part of my life. That is why I said the entrepreneurship is the life I live. So it's my way of living. So for every woman, and clarity is also more important than perfection, because I have seen some, because they have the platform, they have the money, but they are just looking for what to do with that. I didn't start with money. I didn't start with skill. All I have was my lived experience and the passion. So if you have all this, you need to start before you feel, yes, I am actually ready for it. In fact, the passion will not even tell you when to start. You just find yourself doing what you are doing. Let me share with you my experience. When I began Girls Education Mission International, I didn't even know that there is something we call NGO, that is non-profit work. It was just a lifestyle. I just felt out of my own experience. Growing up in the village then, in the villages there is no organized programs like this. I started meeting with the girls as just part of my life, part of my contribution to really support the girls. And along the line, I felt when I was leaving these girls, how can I leave these girls after all the impact? So I felt this is something that will continue. And it was the girls themselves that thought it wise that we should make it a formal organization so that we will be accepted. But initially, it was a passion going on, a lifestyle of support. And so what I'm saying is that if the passion is there, you don't even know that you've started. You will find yourself doing the work, doing the change. That was actually from my own experience. I just found myself, I didn't sit down and said, I need to do this. When do I start? When I get resources, then I will do it. I just found myself doing it out of passion. Then along the way, it became formal. And so, impact is also built on discipline and also courageous step. You need to really be courageous. Then I would have been, in fact, I received a lot of discouragement. Just as I've said, I started very young. When people look at me, they will doubt me. Even at this moment, because of my structure, when people see me, they even ask, how old are you, Keturah, that you are doing these things? So you actually have all this discouragement. But the secret is believe in yourself. For every woman, there is a campaign we run which is our mentorship signature. We call I Am Possible. And so every woman and every young woman listening to me must believe in herself first. Because even when the world believes in you and you don't believe in yourself, you will not be able to do anything. But when you believe in yourself, even when the world don't believe in you, you will still make it. You will still make impact. And along the way, the world will believe in you. And that is actually my story. So believe in yourself, believe that I am possible, and have a goal. Then start, just as I've said, think bold, think big, and also think bold. And begin even when there is nothing to begin with. Because you will even begin without anything if it is passion that is moving you.
Keturah, thank you so much for reminding us that access is not accidental, it's built. You know, your work shows that when girls are given the tools, mentorship, and belief, they don't just participate in digital economy, they eventually start leading it. We're so happy that you were on this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to our listeners, if something in today's conversation resonated, we invite you to take the next step. World Pulse exists to be a digital bridge, connecting women across the world so that no one has to lead, learn, or build change alone. To learn more or to get involved, visit impact.worldpulse.org or simply click on the link in the show notes for this episode. Because whether you're here to listen, to contribute, or to simply belong, there's a place for you on this bridge. Thank you for joining us in the World Pulse podcast today. This conversation does not end here. It continues through connection. We'll see you next time.